Absolutely, man. The record kicks ass, too. We're just a couple weeks away. Finally, man.
Kidding. Yeah, no kidding. Because, obviously we've been sitting on this for a year.
Yeah.
I've got to blow the dust off this bad boy. And,
you guys are
remember it.
You guys could have another record being written at this point, man, with how long it's taken you.
It's funny you say that because we're already writing.
I love it.
So, we're moving on to the next one, writing some really cool stuff. And
I love it.
You have to look back on this one. You're like, oh, yeah, we did that.
Man, what a better album title for this year, for a record coming out this summer. Redemption, man, because that's exactly what this summer is going to be for so many bands and so many fans. Redemption for everything we missed out on last year. And you said it, man. You've been sitting on this for a year. You started unveiling the record last year, like right before everything hit, man. So, man, to say you guys are antsy would be an understatement right now.
Exactly right. I mean, we filmed the video, and here we are, ready to go. And then, we put it out for a minute, and then everything just comes to a grinding halt. And they're like, no, pull everything back, turn everything off, and enjoy your summer, or enjoy your year. So
right.
That's literally, what we've been doing. It's kind of surreal right now that it's happening. You can imagine the backlog. Obviously, Seven Dust finished theirs before we did.
Right.
They finally got to put theirs out, but of course they put theirs out, kind of towards the end of last year, and just now getting to tour. So, these guys that obviously make a career out of it. It was a tough year for them, as you would know.
Oh yeah, man. Remember I was talking to Clint last year in the middle of all of it, I think, and it's just like, man, nobody knew anything at the time, and now finally, man, tours are starting to get announced, records are coming out again, man. It feels good to have a little sense of normalcy. But when all of that hit last year with you guys, right on the cusp of everything, blowing up for you, like, what was the mindset when all of that hit? I mean, it's deflating, I would think, but like, what does that do to you?
It is, but at the same time, fortunately for us, it wasn't a situation where, our livelihood depended on it.
Right.
Because we're new.
Right.
And, for the most part, we all have, regular day jobs, that kind of thing. But you think about these folks who literally make a living out of this, and the road crew and the management and production. I mean, these guys, it was really hard. And then, of course, didn't get anybody's attention at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think they'd have all the time in the world, but they're over triaging, their own personal lives and their businesses and that kind of thing. And here you are, kind of waving your hand and go, hey, what about us? And they're like, that's cute. We'll see you in a year. So, and that's really kind of where we were coming from. And we understand, and, that's just the nature of the beast. And, in the grand schemes of things, our little issues are, nothing relative to what they've gone through. And, of course, the world in general. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of look at each other and kind of shrug your shoulders, but at the same time, we're excited that we're at a point where we can put it out there. Right,
and with Rat Pack Records, I got to ask, was going with Rat Pack decision on the record, the label's end, or was that like a Vince suggestion? Because a lot of the Seven Dust side projects are on Rat Pack, so he's familiar with that. Was that something he brought up, or how did that relationship come about?
It honestly came from Seven Dust Management.
Oh.
They were the ones that had a relationship, obviously, with via Clint. They said, hey, we had a lot of success with those guys, with Clint's record, and we like the way that they do these things. And it was really a suggestion, from those guys and to put us together. And I'm telling you, once we got on the phone with them, started talking to them, I mean, they were fantastic. I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of the bands on the roster anyway.
Such a good label.
So that certainly helps. And then, you're talking to the guys up there, and they're as excited about it as you are, and that makes you feel good. It's like, these people believe in you.
Yeah.
They're gonna put their weight behind you, and so it really wasn't that tough of a decision to make.
Awesome.
It came highly recommended. They obviously had dealings in the past with our producer, and it just kind of felt like family to me.
Yeah, every band I've talked to, like when I talked to Michael from Striper, he's like, I love Rat Pack. Like, they're so awesome. So, I mean, like, everybody I've talked to loves being on that label,
Yeah, and for us to put our debut album out on it, I mean, talk about it, typically, these guys, I mean, that's, especially these days, and that's a tough road to hoe. So, We feel very fortunate.
So was working with Elvis kind of the same thing as for bringing him in as the producer, and the familiarity between like Seven Dust Management, Vince, and all those guys? How did that connection come up?
Well, let me tell you something. You were talking about intimidating. I mean, that was an intimidating process because, a lot of people don't know this, but, I had put together an independent album before this one, did a showcase for that record.
Okay.
And Vince was there. And, of course, Atlanta's a relatively small musical town. We kind of all know each other. And
sure.
That kind of thing. So you're not really freaked out that, there's a couple of quote-unquote rock stars in the audience. But, he was there, loved the set, loved what we were doing. He goes, I like what you guys are doing. In fact, I'm going to send you down to, what we call Camp Elvis in Florida. So we got, Elvis to agree to, basically cut 4 songs for us.
Wow.
We'll go down there, write new material, cut 4 brand new songs. And, before we got done with the 4, Elvis calls him up and says, hey, not only is this going to be really, really good, we're going to do a full record, but you're going to come down here and play bass and be in the band.
Nice.
And that's really how that worked. But again, you walk into this guy's studio, there's platinum records on the wall. Slash was there the week before.
Oh, wow.
He's texting Eddie Van Halen. You're like, oh cow, man. Am I up for this?
Right.
Have what it takes. I'm sitting on the microphone that Miles Kennedy sings on. I'm like,
nice.
It's incredibly intimidating. And he could not have been any cooler.
Nice.
There's no arrogance about him whatsoever. And he was like, the guy was grilling the steaks that week, and just, because he was that stinking cool and that good. But
wow.
More so than anything, that's a genius. He really is. His whole crew, fantastic. And talk about falling on, into a lottery.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that was like 5-6 years ago. I got invited to go into a studio just to meet a band and get to know them, do an interview with them, and it ended up being Groove Master Studios in Chicago, where Disturbed and all these bands recorded all these top Stained. I walked in, I'm like, I don't feel like I should be here right now. I'm way in over my head right now. This does not seem like I should be here. I'm like, you're in the room where all this stuff is recorded, and it's like it's surreal. It's so cool.
It is surreal. You're like, okay, this is where they found that I'm a fraud, and we don't know what we're doing, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you, it was nothing like that at all.
That's awesome.
Nothing. It was literally like going to music camp. It was that cool, that much fun.
So how do you, obviously we know how you and Vince got connected, but bringing in Chase and Bo and Joseph and all these other guys and really creating this band that eventually became the CEO, how does everybody get connected and come together for this project?
Well, let me tell you something. Bo and Chase are both in their early 20s, so I have known these guys since they were little boys.
Nice.
Bo would run around with a guitar that was bigger than he is, and then of course he had his own list. Those guys had their own little cover band together, and then they started writing originals together. And of course, I'm in another band here in town, and it was really cute at the time. There were these young guys that were writing these, really, cute little rock songs and that kind of thing. But these guys grew up to be monsters. So we were so when I was putting this band together, Vince and I are in our 50s, my drummer's in his early 30s. And then these 2 guys in their 20s, you can imagine the influences that each, generation brought to, the gumbo that is the CEO.
That's true.
It's great. Because their influences are, completely different for the most part than mine and say Vince's for example.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I've known these guys forever. They're fantastic. They're great to play with and super talented individuals. So when we put the band together, I want that guy, this guy over here. And then, of course, I told you how, Vince came to be.
Right.
So it really is a cool little family vibe.
Which explains why there's so many different, styles of rock on this record. It's so eclectic, and you use the word gumbo, which one of my favorite artists, Toby Mack, uses that to describe his music. It's like a giant pot of musical gumbo, throwing a sprinkle, a little of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, which is really cool because no 2 songs sound the same, man. They all have their own identity. They all stand alone. You can turn on the record and go to any song and just be blown away by it. It's so fucking good.
That's cool.
Absolutely. And obviously, one of my favorites, I'm sure you're going to hear this a lot, is Black Hearts. It's the longest song on the record by a little bit. It's the ballad. But was that the longest song on purpose? Did you guys just put more into that song, or because it's so strong?
No, I appreciate it. I got a great little story about Black Hearts because it literally almost didn't make it on the album itself. Yeah, which is, Chase and one of his buddies, they write, they're pretty prolific songwriters, and if they're not, writing for themselves, they're writing for other people. Sure. And they had this song for their friends in Nashville. They pitched this song as a country music song to Nashville. And, of course, I didn't know that. And then they sent it over to me, and they said, hey, what do you think about this one as we were, headed into the studio to do this initial floor that we were talking about? And I'm like, it's cool. It sounds like a country music song. Really doesn't fit what we're doing. The lyrics don't fit really what we're doing at all. So, thanks, but no thanks. It's cool. Well, they sent it down to Elvis as part of the, the demos that we were doing anyway. And, of course, wouldn't you know it, they're there, they're getting ready to do their thing, and Elvis picks that song. They call me up the night before I'm supposed to go in and record it, and they said, Elvis wants to do, I forget the name of the title of that song, but what would become Black Hearts. Elvis wants to do that song, and we're doing it tomorrow. And I'm like, I got to write this thing, So I had to completely write lyrics for it the night before, go in the studio and sing it, and of course you get what you got here now. But
wow.
it almost didn't make it. Of course, I wasn't a fan of it at the time until we completely, went from a whole country vibe to a rock vibe, rewrote the lyrics, and you get what you heard today. So
that's crazy how so many bands biggest songs or some of the most popular songs, the bands hated the songs at first and didn't want to put it on the record, and then they did, and it became their biggest song or a fan favorite and stuff. It's crazy how that stuff happens so often, and it's amazing the songs that ends up being, and I see Black Hearts being one of those songs for sure. Absolutely love it. Thank you for putting it on the record, dude.
Oh, yeah, well, trust me, once I heard what we did with it, and, what Elvis did with it, and how they rocked it up for us, then I was like, oh, yeah, okay, this is cool. I get it now.
But then you've got songs like The Storm, which is just a heavy hitter, then Dirty Tragic, which is almost groovy and just it's so cool. And Work of Heart, just that song title alone is so artistically awesome. I love what you guys did with that saying, work of heart, absolutely love that. And that song kicks ass too, man. But the video for Redemption, it's simple, but really well done. Did you guys just want to do a simple video of just you guys playing in different parts of the mansion, the house and stuff like that? Was that the original idea that you ended up going with, or was there different ideas tossed around?
No, in fact, there's another version. I think I was telling you at the top of the story here that we had cut this video for Redemption before. Okay. So we had a version of it out there, big white room, that kind of thing, where there's endless rooms and whatever. So we cut it, and of course, especially now, and you're coming out of the studio, you got to do things on a budget.
Yeah.
On a budget. It was a cool video. We put it out. Probably 300 or 400 people saw it, and then of course everything had to get yanked.
Right.
And so we yanked it, and okay, we're ready to release this one. And the label's like, "Hey guys, people have already seen this before. We need a new video, and we need you to go back out there and cut another video." So the initial idea was, I've got some buddies that are pilots, and we'll just go out to this really cool airport hangar, private jet, and do it up that way. But at the last minute, that got punted, and we're scrambling. We're like, okay, what do we do? A friend of mine said, my wife's friend owns that big mansion right here in Atlanta. She said, come over and use my place. We're like, okay, which has been featured in a lot of hip hop, rap videos, World Star Hip Hop, that kind of thing. But I think it's probably the first rock video that's ever been in. So.
Nice. That's why I haven't seen it before.
Exactly. Look around, you'll see it on some probably 50 Cent album or something.
Nice. Oh man, that takes me back. Wow.
Right.
Man, so looking at obviously things are starting to get unveiled for touring and stuff like that. You guys are a very young band, but with Seven Dust going out, is there a possibility that we could see some Seven Dust /CEO shows down the road?
I think it's entirely possible. You look at somebody like Vince, and you go, okay, you get up there to 50s, can you do this, buddy? And he looks at you, kind of smiles and grins, and just says, Don't you worry about that, son. I got it. So, I think, like the tour, obviously not, but some select dates here and there. I think we can make that happen.
So how do you guys feel about the idea of touring right now? Because, I mean, I know everybody's announcing, everybody's unveiling, but everything's still so, like, fresh, it seems like. I don't know if there's ever going to be a time where it's like this is the right time to go back out. But, I mean, how do you feel about, like, things starting to open back up and bands being able to go out and tour again and stuff like that with what we're coming out of? Because it's so good to see it happening, but there's a lot of caution too.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it's great. And of course, being here in Georgia, they kind of opened up earlier than certain parts of the country. So we are starting to see some shows come to town and that type of thing. But you can imagine the backlog, and all these bands and have some really big money behind them, and this is what they do for a living. So, they basically got to clear the one way, do their thing. And then, opportunity for, bands like ourselves that are, new and upcoming to, get on with some other groups and ride that. So we're thinking that, once Seven Dust does its thing and since it's off the road, then we'll start looking at our own opportunities to, jump on some stuff ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling certain people that don't, I mean, I'm so, like, connected to the bands anymore. I don't always think about, like, the other side, but a lot of friends I have that aren't, like, into music, like, are you sure it's a good idea? I'm like, look, like, the amount of just money and time that these bands lost last year, the second they can, they're going to go out, whether it's, no matter what, because they have to recoup somehow and make up for lost time and money. Like, that's their job. They have to. And
absolutely.
I think people are doing it smart. I'm really excited because there's so many bands going out that I want to see this year. Like, I can see a huge boom for the music industry coming, possibly, that we haven't seen in a while. It could be really exciting. So I know that.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I would totally agree with that. I mean, it was tough last year, but I think those that are, prepped and ready to go are going to see a huge demand.
Yep.
For what it is they're doing. I mean, people have been pent up. They've been stuck at home, and going to a concert makes you forget about the drama outside of those four walls. So I mean, people need that right now. They need to be around.
I went to
health notwithstanding, but they need to be around other like-minded people and just forget about the world for a while.